So many women are doing all the right things and still feeling like they're stuck, disconnected, or feeling like they are living someone else's life. In today's episode, we are going to explore what actually happens when women release old, outdated narratives, inherited conditioning, and old identities that no longer serve them, so that they can then step fully into their own authentic power and reclaim their bodies, their voices, and their truth. Today, my guest is Tara Wiskow, an intuitive healer and an energy coach. She really works with women, helping them to break free of internal blocks, energetic clutter, which I love that term, so that they can rise into who they truly are. So let's dive in. Tara, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's so good to have you here.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for having me. That introduction, like I cannot not smile hugely because it is amazing. I'm like, man, I sure love what she's talking about.
This is going to be the topic. Go ahead.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited to dive into all of that. Tell me more. Oh, so good.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
good.
I love what you do in the world, and I would love for you to tell like where in the world do you hail from to the audience, and kind of what is your how do you describe yourself when you walk into a room? Say you were networking. When you walk into a room, how do you tell people what you do?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I'm in Minnesota, far, far north. Minnesota up on the Canadian border. So that's where I've lived all my life and I just haven't left yet. But as the older I get, the warm temperatures are pulling me and I'm definitely needing to leave. So it'll happen. It'll happen. But for now, this is where I am. So when I walk into a room, I love that I've been working on this because I needed to really hone as I have pivoted and shifted from who I've been, working on identities and releasing and healing, I really needed to ask myself, who am I and what do I do? How do I explain it? And so I was working on it today. So thank you
Oh,
for
nice.
asking this question because now I can actually say it and love it. So I am, as you said, an intuitive healer. I'm also a speaker, an energy coach, and I offer within my company, Be the Change You Need, a safe place for women who are 35 and older, and they're wanting to finally feel like they're living a life that they love living. And through the energy healing, through a 6-month authenticity program, intuitive services, this is where I help women release blocks, to release the trauma bonds, limiting beliefs. We heal the soul and the ancestral lineage, and it allows them doing that. They come home to themselves and they're home with themselves in that space of unapologetic self-love. That's such an important piece because if we don't love ourselves, it's so difficult for us to continue to choose, not continue to even choose ourselves. And so that
Yeah.
unapologetic self-love is such a powerful piece. And I work with those women who are disconnected from themselves, struggle with people pleasing tendencies, fear judgment, abandonment, rejection. And we unravel them from being who they've always been, who they were conditioned to become. And then we upgrade them into becoming the woman that they were created to be. And then we up level them into embodying. We talked about this word,
Mhm.
embodying the woman that they've always dreamed of being. And that embodiment keeps them housed right there in that self choice. And I've spent over a decade on my own personal growth journey, losing 220 pounds, overcoming suicide, healing my internal world, and creating Be the Change You Need was such an easy thing for me because I knew that it was a container that all women need to finally choose themselves
Yeah.
and become their authentic self so that they can live the life that they dreamed living. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Alignment. I love this.
Yes. Oh yeah, we definitely link elbows and walk side by side in
There
that
we go.
aligned nature, for sure.
Absolutely. I love it. Great. All right. So let's dive in then. So, in the work that you do, how do the early stages of conditioning, the early onsets of shame, and the early inherited beliefs that women get in their lives quietly shape their identity?
Gosh. Silently is the very first word that I know that I need
Mhm.
to say. We have no idea that these beliefs are shaping our reality.
Absolutely.
We're not understanding that the cycles that we keep being pulled into, stuck in, relationships that are not healthy, we get out of one and we hop right into the very next one that is an
Mhm.
exact replica. The struggles with choosing ourselves, giving ourselves the happiness, the confidence, the love, the success that we want never seems to show up in our life, and we can't figure out what's wrong. And I'm sure that you get this when I say we instantly think, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah.
What's wrong with me? Like, why can't this be possible for me?
Mhm.
That is how all of these limiting beliefs, all of this past programming and conditioning show up in our life. It's these impossible things that we want that we just can't bring into our life. And so, ways that it'll show up is how we talk ourselves out of doing something that we were just excited about doing 5 minutes ago,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Just talk. I can't tell you how
So
many times.
often.
Yes.
So often.
Yes. Yes. And most times it happens when we're in a group of people or we're with somebody that we trust. We have that external trust factor or even external permission from people that we love that say, yes, yeah, you should absolutely do that. I could see you doing that. You can do it for sure. And you're so amped up and you're so excited because somebody else told you that you can do it. And so now you believe it. And then you're by yourself and it's silent. And those thoughts start to circle, those thoughts that are in that unconscious space that you spend 95% of your day in. You're not even aware of it. You always fail. You start something and you never finish. You're not capable of becoming anything important. Don't start now. You're
Ooh,
too
yes.
old. You're too
Yep.
old. Why start now? She only told you that because she's your friend and she's supposed to. She doesn't believe you can do that.
Right.
You know better. How many times have you done this and not succeeded? When will you finally just realize you're never going to make it happen?
Exactly. Or the
This is
who do
how
you
they show
think
up.
you
Yeah.
are?
Yeah. Oh,
Who do
who
you
do you
think you
think you
are?
are?
That
Yes.
can succeed at this. Yep.
Yeah, that imposter syndrome.
Yes.
Yeah. So those are some of the ways, and that's just such a small nugget
Hmm.
of how they show up in our life.
Yeah. Indeed. And they're so subversive. And I used to, and I still sometimes use this analogy with clients, especially ones who are closer to our age. Our minds are almost like the old record players. And there's a record that's playing in the back of your mind at all times. And you remember how
Yes.
records were made, right? They had the etching in the vinyl,
Yep.
right? And that thing, as long as you drop that needle in the right spot, that thing would play the exact thing that's on there all the time. And that is the voice in the back of most people's heads, most women's heads, that talks them out of things.
I love that. I love that analogy. And for anybody that's younger than us and you're not really certain of what happens with the record, anytime you scratch it, it is etched deep enough that it gets stuck there and it just
Yep.
stays and it plays over and over and
Absolutely.
over. Yeah, that same, that same. And then you have to go over there and lift it up and put it down so then we can actually, right? And that's
Yep.
exactly how you said that. I love that you use that analogy and connect that with your clients because that's a limiting belief. It continues over and over and over. And the other thing that's important for us to know, I didn't know this until I started going into the healing work, is that we can work on this limiting belief and we can reframe it. We could, if it is, who do you think you are? We could reframe it to say, I know that I'm somebody that is worthy of being successful. I always have been and I always will be. And we can work on reframing that and having that positive affirmation, which I love. And I absolutely recommend everybody do that because it's important. However, that's just this beautiful piece of the puzzle.
That's right.
We're not even talking about the body because your body never ever forgets the situation that was created or happened that made you come into connection with that limiting belief and you decided it to be true for you.
That's right.
That, yes,
So true.
that's still in your body. And so
Right. It
until
houses in that central nervous system of yours.
exactly.
Yeah.
And until we identify where it is, how deeply integrated it is, and we begin to release it through healing work, it's always going to be there, just waiting for the perfect opportunity to remind you it's not a good idea for you to do what you're wanting to do. So again, it's not because you're doing anything wrong. It's not because you're not good enough. It's not because any of that. It's just that your body has taken on this identity, this belief, and it's keeping it stuck. And it does it for the purpose of protecting us. It
Yeah.
wants to keep us safe. Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
It's actually doing its job and it does it well.
Yeah, very well. Very well. Yes. Oh,
So true. So true. And that I think that's where that question that we often catch ourselves asking is what's wrong with me has to change, right? I talk about shifting that question to what is true for me right now, rather than this kind of question that beats up on ourselves, because our nervous systems are in that moment dysregulated and doing what they're designed to do. Asking yourself a different question gives you a different answer and hopefully a different result every time.
I love that. And also, like, I would go a little bit deeper in it when I work with my women in She Rises, my program. When that comes up, I will ask them to ask themselves, why does something have to be wrong with me?
Right. Exactly.
And what does it mean if something's wrong with me? What does that mean?
Right.
And then if something's wrong with me, what does that protect me from going out and doing, right? And when we start to ask those questions, all of a sudden we dive in to understand, oh, well, then nobody's going to laugh at me if I for speaking, right? So for me, when I started speaking, if I continue to tell myself, who do you think you are to be a speaker? And I believe that, then I can guarantee nobody's going to judge me. Nobody's going to laugh at me. Nobody's going to snicker. Nobody's going to roll their eyes and nobody's going to leave me a really cruddy review because I'm not going to go because I keep
Right. You got to
saying.
try.
But when we start
Yes.
to dive in and ask those questions, we start to get the body to start to open up, blossom, and give us this little bit of information for us to dive in and tap into to say, oh, I get you. I see what you're trying to do. And we can begin to release it, let it go, and create a new reality. I was listening to this woman speak, and I loved how she said it. I will not say it as eloquently as she said it, is that we have this known, what we know is pain of whatever it is. For me, I wanted to step on the stage and I was terrified to do it. But that pain of fear was so big that it kept me stuck. And she said, you have to find a fear that is bigger than this fear.
There you go.
And so instantly I'm hit with goosebumps all the way through my chest to know the bigger fear is I will always be kept my best kept secret. I'll
Yes.
never achieve my dream and my goal of being a speaker. My message that I want to pour into the lives of women can never be heard because I am hiding behind a computer screen at home.
Yes.
That pain feels far larger than the pain of being ridiculed, judged, seen, laughed at. Yeah.
Yes. Indeed. Staying small serves
Mm,
no one.
so true.
Not
So
you,
true.
nor the people who need to hear your message.
Yeah.
Staying
Yeah.
small serves no one.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love it. And so when we think about identity and energy and like the body, what happens in the body and in the energetic system when women begin to release those old, outdated identities?
Man, I love this. When we begin to release it, we are so for I'll try to explain it the best that I can from what I see. When I'm dropping into my client, whether it's virtual or they're on my healing table in my studio, I'm working in there. We have four bodies: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And I'm identifying these blockages where I'm seeing energy cannot move through that. When energy does not move through, it's like blood not able to move through. We could have heart attack, we could have stroke, we could have high blood pressure. All these things happen. When we don't have energy flowing, we have similar situations: mental health issues, depression, anxiety, sadness, heaviness, being lethargic. We could also start to create high blood pressure and cholesterol and things like that because our body becomes so ill. And we're not aware of the things that are not well on the inside until they get to the physical. And by this point, they've eroded so much that we're now becoming aware of it. But we've been struggling with this for years. Sometimes they come in past lives. If you believe in past lives, they've been with us for a long time.
Yeah.
So when we go in and I identify that we have these blocks, we have these traumas, we have these barriers that are keeping us stuck and hurting us essentially, when we start to release them, it opens that spot up and it starts to pull this negativity. I start going right into what I do, the negativity out. And when that happens, we get energy flow. This gives us that ability to start feeling what it is that what we're wanting. So I had a woman yesterday that came in, and the one thing that she wanted was to be able to feel like she could be safe being herself. And so prior to the session, I saw her running through a forest and just screaming and saying, I can't figure out how to be myself. I'm trying, I'm doing it. And she kept looking behind her and it was full fear. Like she was so fearful and she just sat in tears as we talked about it. Once I started to release, she said, I feel lighter. I feel safer. She said, I feel like I don't have to go in the forest anymore. Like it's okay for me not to go in the forest. And so we uncovered that the forest was where she could hide, where she could dodge in between trees. This was her safety net. It was a camel. And so as we released, she started to realize, I don't need to go in the forest. I'm safe to be here. She said, I feel lighter. I feel more confident. I feel like I can go into my next meeting at work and I can speak what I need to speak and I don't need to ask somebody else for the words that I need to say. So that's a really like prime example of what starts to happen. And one of the most beautiful things that she shared, she gave me permission to share this. So I always ask because I'm giving a piece of her when I share this. She said, as you were releasing, when you were on the left side of me, or you were on the right side, whichever side, I would see green puffs like smoke signals leaving. She goes, it would leave my body. And she said, every time you took a deep breath, it was like a big puff that would leave my body. And she said, every time you did that, I grew heavier into the table, but lighter in how I felt in my body. And she said, at one point, she said, I know I'm on your table, but I don't think the table has legs anymore. I'm just floating. That's when I know we have freed her of what we needed to bring her into that healing.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Exactly. As you were describing her running through the forest, it's like it was one of these intuitive hits. How much of that is past life energy? Was she an energy healer herself in another time, or considered a witch in another time and was persecuted?
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Very well could be. Yes.
Yeah.
Many of us women, well, all of us women, either were a healer or a witch, or we were connected to a healer or a witch, and
Yeah.
we suffered because of our connection.
Yep.
So all of us women are affected from that time when witches were persecuted for being a witch. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Wow. All right. Now I got the shivers again. So I would love, Tara, if you shared with the audience your personal transformation as much as you feel comfortable sharing, and how your part of your spiritual, emotional, and mental transformation had the biggest impact on your physical transformation.
Yeah, I would love to. People call them dark nights of the soul. I never heard of that. And now that I understand what it is, I can say that I know that I've had at least 3 of these experiences in my life. And so I'll start at the very beginning. I was 8 years old. It was my birthday. It was also Easter. I was outside playing with my friends or my cousins and my sisters, and we're waiting for the party to get started. And my aunt comes up to me and she says, "Tara Lynn, I saw your dad." And I said, "I know, he's in the house. I'm 8. I didn't understand that." She said, "Well, not your dad, Junior, silly, your dad, Bruce." Now, I didn't have a dad, Bruce. My dad was Junior. But all of a sudden, like the gears started turning and I ran into the house. And now my aunt is cognitively delayed. She had no concept of secrets. None. So I go in the house and I blow open the kitchen door and my mom is standing at the stove and she's mashing potatoes and Bruce happens to be there. There's this guy named Bruce that has been in our life. Almost all of our family events shows up and there he is sitting on this blue bench that my dad, Junior, built in the kitchen. And I go up to my mom and I say louder than I probably should in this kitchen full of people, "Is that my dad?" And I'll never forget the moment my mom yelled, had a few curse words, told me to get my ass back outside. And I did. I went back outside, more confused than when I walked into that kitchen. And I later found out that Bruce was not my dad, but I did, in fact, have a dad named Bruce. My dad, Junior, was my stepdad. He was the only dad that I knew. And then everything in that moment started to make sense. I was asked by friends if I was adopted. I didn't know what adopted meant. I would ask my mom and she would just get mad and say, "For stupid, kids are just stupid." And then I started to notice my mom and my dad, stepdad, and 2 sisters are blonde hair and blue eyes. And for those of you that maybe aren't watching, I am dark brown hair with dark brown eyes. I didn't look like them. I didn't talk like them. I didn't like the things they liked. I was entirely different. And so I started doing what I call shape shifting. I started to be who I thought I had to be in order to stay accepted in the family because my biological dad had chosen not to have me. He didn't want anything to do with me, rejected me. And so I made sure that I was the good girl. I was perfect. I would tell lies to make it sound like I was so good so that my mom would love me and choose me and never get rid of me. That was at 8 years old. At the age of 12 years old, I met my biological dad. I met him. And it was like looking in the mirror. Everything
Yep.
about
I know
me.
that feeling.
Yes, yes. I looked at this man standing. I drove 5 hours with my grandma, his mom. We drive up into the yard and he's standing in the yard. And all I could think of is, that's my hair. Those are my eyes. Those are my knees. Like everything about him. He laughed like me. We liked the same things. Everything was the same. I felt like I belonged. Everything was right there. And then I would go home and I'd have to try to refit in with a family that wasn't me. And then I'd get to come back and be with my dad and it was right. But I was always shape-shifting because I had to be this Tara with my dad and this Tara with my mom. Not that that's what they wanted. That's what I believed. And then at 15, he left me again. He passed away of cancer. And that was such a hard moment for me because I felt rejected and abandoned by him all over again. He was gone. My piece of connection disappeared all over again. And I started to turn to food. Food was my safety net. Food was what made me feel good. Food never disappointed me. And I was active enough that it didn't impact me. It didn't impact my aesthetics of my body. None of that was impacted, but it was becoming unhealthy. And then I was 16 years old, and this guy walked into the gas station where I was working. And for some reason, he reminded me of my dad. I have no idea how, because he used blonde hair and blue eyes. And I knew that I was supposed to be married to him at 16. At 17, we were engaged. I was married at 20. I was a mom at 21. By the age of 26, I had 3 boys, and I was divorced at 28. I was 338 pounds, morbidly obese, depressed, and knew that something went wrong at some point in my life because I wasn't living the life that I was meant to. I wasn't the mom that I always thought I would be, and things just weren't okay. And I went through the divorce and decided that I was going to lose weight. This was the time. All the other 350 times wasn't the time, but this is the time. And I started down the weight loss journey of trying anything I could. Doctor prescribed, internet suggested, friend recommended, pills, patches, wraps, creams, did it all. Nothing worked. So I started going into starvation, deprivation. I began to binge, and then I would purge. And that became a 1.5-year struggle of binging and purging, binging and purging. And I never lost weight. I started losing hair. My health was not well. My mental health was declining. I was worse in the situation of momhood than I was before I started. And that was the reason why I wanted to lose weight. And I was at the park with my boys, and I was called the park bench mama. One of the moms there didn't know that I heard her call me that. And she wasn't wrong. I sat on the park and I let all the other moms play with my boys because I was afraid. I was over 300 pounds. Couldn't swing. I was afraid to be on the grounds and on the equipment because I was so large, and I was so disgusted with myself. And all these other moms were beautiful. They were who I wanted to be. And one day everybody left and the boys were still there, and they wanted to play their favorite swing game. And so I said, all right, for a little bit. And they were swinging and I was running between them, and I would stop and then I'd run. I mean, my kind of running that I could do. And we get to we had played for about 15 minutes. And I said, all right, one more time and we're going home. That's it. They're like, okay. So it's Trevor, my oldest, and then Treston, my youngest, and then Trey, my middle. And I got by Trevor, and Treston said, me next, me next. He was so excited. He was 2.5 years old, and I got in front of him and I tripped. And as I fell, he came and collided with my body, and the force was so strong that he couldn't hold on to the chains of the swing, and he flipped backwards. And he was knocked unconscious and instantly cracked his head open. And I remember being on the ground trying to get up and hearing Trevor and Trey crying and screaming and telling me to hurry. And I could see that he wasn't good. So I finally got him up. And they say that adrenaline, like when you have adrenaline, you can lift a 1,400-pound car. I remember hearing that. I started to try to run, and I could barely make it 5 feet before I had to stop and catch my breath. And I couldn't. I kept telling myself, you gotta go. He's bleeding. He's not okay. No matter how much I said it, I could not get myself to be able to get the distance to the van. We finally get to the van. He's awake, which was such a relief to hear his screams. Get the boys buckled in. We get to the ER, and any nurses listening, you're all like, he's going to be fine, which is exactly what the nurse there is like. It's okay. It's just a gash in his head. We'll put some staples in. We're going to be okay. And exactly that. The boys walked out with lollipops. Tristan was so proud of his 5 staples in his head. He's manpower now. And I,
Street cred.
right. I was devastated. I left that hospital devastated. 3 days later, after so much thinking, so it's reliving that experience, I knew that my boys deserve better. I knew I was never going to lose weight. I knew that I might as well just quit. And I decided to end my life. I knew that I locked the door. And this always makes me cry. I know I locked that door. I know I did. And I remember sitting on the edge of my bed, bawling, wishing that it could be different, wishing that I could be smart, pretty, successful, skinny, a good mom, wishing all those things and knowing that it was never going to happen. And I just remember crying and knowing, like, just get it over with. You got to just get this over with. And all of a sudden my door opened and I look and there's my middle son, Trey, standing there. He was 5.5 and he asked me a question that altered the direction of my life and still does to this day. Are you going to die, Mama? He made me realize I had a choice. Up until this moment, I thought I had no choice. Life was what it was. God gave me this life. God, the universe, higher power, whoever you speak to, gave me this life. And this is what I had to deal with. And it didn't matter if I didn't like it. This was it. I wasn't meant to be somebody pretty or successful or any of the things that I wanted to be. That was not my reality. This was it. So deal with it. Him asking me that made me realize I have a choice. And when he asked me that, it opened me up. And that was my first experience of hearing something intuitively, because I heard my voice in this energy that was far larger than me say, Tara, your only way out of this is to love yourself as much as you love your boys. That's it. And I remember looking at Trey and I said, no, bud, I'm not going to die. I'm not. And from that day forward, I started working on loving myself. I would stand in the mirror and I would look at myself naked, all 338 pounds of myself. And I couldn't look at myself at first. I looked at my toes. They were damn gorgeous toes. By the time I was done talking to my toes, they were damn gorgeous. And I worked my way up all the way to my ankles, to my knees, until I could finally look myself in the face. And I continued to say, I love you. I'm proud of you. And I realized I had to love myself for who I was in that moment, regardless of whether I liked my body or if I was proud of myself. None of that could matter anymore. I had to love her. And if I loved her, I'd get her to the other side. And that's where I started. And before I knew it, I was doing things that I'd never been able to sustain and stay committed to. I was walking, I was eating healthier, I was doing the things. And 220 pounds later, I lost it because I chose to love myself. And that gave me the ability to stay rooted in choosing myself through the journey. Now, I transformed my body, lost the weight, became a bodybuilder because I felt like I needed external validation that I'd done well enough. So a friend says, I think you should become a figure competitor. And I said, oh, okay, sure. I had no idea what the hell I was talking about. I didn't know.
What is that?
I didn't know. Was going to wear a bikini and 5-inch heels and stand on a stage and be judged by a panel of judges while I'm flexing muscles and doing all this stuff with my full body, right?
Okay.
Yeah. But I did it. And I competed 3 times, and the last time I took first place. And I knew I needed to be done because it wasn't healthy for me. I wasn't healthy. Everybody thought I was healthy. I wasn't healthy. I was coming out struggling to not go back into purging. And then we fast forward to December of 2022. My sister is diagnosed with stage 4 bile duct cancer. She's my baby sister from my mom's side, one of my blonde sisters. And she tells me she's going to be fine and everything's looking good. In June of 2023, we had to make the decision to let her go. That was, as anybody could imagine, one of the most difficult experiences ever, and would be my 3rd dark night of the soul moment that opened me up spiritually. After I lost her, I started to hear voices, and it was her talking to me. I knew it was. My mom kept saying, you're not doing her any due diligence. Let her go. Let her go. You're keeping her stuck here. Don't do that to her. And so I'd shut it down and shut it down. And then my husband and I went on vacation for our anniversary, and we left home, and we were about 5 hours from home. And I step out of our hotel room and standing on the sidewalk, and I swore somebody was standing right behind me and said, I need you to get a gift for Mom from me. And I turned to be like, who in the world is speaking into my hair? Like I don't really have personal space. Like I'm good with just touching, but this is a little crazy to me. and there's nobody there. We were there for 5 days and I heard it multiple times every day. And by the end of the second day, I knew it was Trisha, but I ignored it. So finally, on the fifth day, I told my husband that Trisha wanted me to get a gift for mom, and he goes along with it. He doesn't believe in it, but he's a supporter. So she leads me to this gift shop, and I walk into the gift shop and I'm a little bit salty because I think this is ridiculous. And I think I'm going to, it's like stand on the stage and be laughed at and ridiculed. I'm going to be laughed at and be ridiculed because I'm believing something that is not in an existence. I believe in ghosts, but it's not possible for me. Like, who are you to think you can actually hear somebody speak to you? And so I said, all right, Trisha, where is it? She goes, go straight. So I did. She goes, go right, go right, go right. Now she's bringing me back almost to the start of where I started. And I said, that's it. I'm done. And I started to cry. And she said, it's right there on the bottom shelf. Now, when Trisha, right before she passed, her lungs were full of cancer. So her and mom were sewing. Mom got her to do anything to keep her up and just moving to help her breathe. And they were sewing coffee cup coasters is what they were doing.
Oh.
Trisha also was only 4 foot 10 inches. She had a bone disease, so she was extremely short. On the bottom shelf is a coffee cup on a sewn coaster. And on the coffee cup, it says, I will always be with you. I will always love you. Your short one. And I
Wow.
had no doubt in that moment that Trisha was there, that she was guiding me. I bought that cup that day. I gave it to my mom. And after that, I started to receive identity shift, identity shift, identity shift over and over and over. Videos, people talking about it, the word, emails kept coming and coming and coming. And I knew it was Trisha sending it to me. And so I went into this workshop and went through this entire workshop, went into this meditation, and was brought into meeting my higher self. And she said, I am so glad you're here. I've waited for you for a very long time. You are a healer. You have always been a healer, and the world needs you now more than ever. And in that moment, I finally knew I'd found who I was supposed to be, because every minute before that, every single second of my day, I had, like you and I had talked about, I'd never embodied it. I was an elementary teacher. I became a personal trainer and a nutrition coach. And I went through and got all these certifications. I'd opened these businesses, sold this business, done all these things, and kept saying, I can't figure out my purpose. I don't know who I'm supposed to be. I can't, like, what's going on? I knew in that moment that that was it. I was a healer. I'd always been a healer. And so Trisha had brought me into the meditation, and I turned to look at her to my left and she was gone. And I knew that I needed to leave that meditation on my own, to walk as my own self, as a healer, out of that meditation. And every day after that, I started to drop into asking myself, what's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? And I continued to be guided to the next step of knowing who I was, what I was here to do. And I'm here to help women to step into their authenticity so that they can serve the world in the way that they're meant to serve the world, whatever that is. But they have to authentically be in the space of who they're supposed to be. So.
Ooh. So lots of tingles for me.
Yeah.
And thank you for opening up and sharing your story and the vulnerability of it and the truth of your experience and then of course the phoenix moment of becoming who you are, right? Allowing yourself to step into who you are.
Yeah. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. There's someone I'm going to share with you when we come off of this that you might want to check out, because
Okay.
you talked about falling in love with your body
Yeah.
the way it was.
Just the way it was. Yeah.
How it started, right?
It
That's how
did.
it started. So yeah, there's a coach that I follow who talks about that was part of her journey. Powerful,
Oh,
powerful story. So yeah, I'll share that
oh,
with you after we.
thank you. Thank you. I can't wait.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Oh, so thank you. Yeah, and I'm hoping that what you shared touches somebody or lots of somebodies
I
out
hope
there
so
because
too.
that's really what it is. It really is that we have to come home to ourselves. We have to come back to loving ourselves, having what I heard someone talk about in a video recently, radical forgiveness of
Oh,
ourselves,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
For the myriad of things that we hold against ourselves. We do it all day, every day, right?
Right, right.
Radical forgiveness so that you can fall in love with yourself.
Yeah. And I love that you say that because I can never say this. Somebody out there will say it for me. But it's the Hawaiian Ho'oponopono meditation,
Yes.
right? Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And that forgiveness, sometimes I remember hearing how we have to forgive. And I always felt like, but I don't want to forgive. Like, I don't want to forgive them because if I forgive them, then I'm saying what they did to me was okay. And right. And it's not that at all. It's forgiveness to set ourselves free. And I bring up this meditation because there are pieces of us that we need to forgive that we aren't even aware that we have to because they come from past lives. They come from things passed down generationally. They come from things imprinted into us without us even knowing. And we believe them to be true for us. And when we can just forgive that without judgment, without shame, without blame, we just say, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. It's like we're saying it's okay to let it go. It's okay. You're meeting yourself with that compassion. And that really, when I realized, wow, like there's forgiveness that needs to be done that I'm not even aware needs to be done. And if I can just forgive myself for the things that I'm not aware of, it opens me up energetically. I start shaking stuff loose. And it's also important to say too that when we start shaking things loose, it's like a volcano. All of a sudden it has to erupt. It has to come out. So all of a sudden things will happen and you're like, "Ugh, why is my life falling apart?" It's not. It's
It's
falling
not. That's
together.
right.
Yes. Yes, but you had to shake this stuff loose to get it to come out and you had to combust so that you could be free and then you could begin calling in what it is that's meant for you, that's taking up the space of what was blocking you. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's very much like the analogy of calling in a closet organizer or a declutter person into your home, and you take everything out of those spaces that needs to be reorganized, and you look in the room. And this is, as a person who really, I try to be a minimalist and keep tidy, when the room looks like that, your
Yes.
anxiety is like, oh my God, how are we going to get this back into some semblance of order? But then
Yeah.
when they work their magic with you and put it all back, you sort through it, take out what you don't need, and put back into place everything you do need.
Yeah. And there's so much growth in there
Yes.
because when you have all that in the middle of your room, awareness of what's
Yes.
inside of you.
What it all is.
Yeah. And then you're
How to
like,
look at it. You've got to look
yes,
at it. You can't ignore it.
yes.
Yep.
And then, but then you don't want to get rid of it, right? There's those things that you're like, I know that I need to get rid of this, but can I just hold on to it for a little bit longer? And it's like,
Yes.
no, we have got to part ways with this. This was like old, old, old. It doesn't serve you anymore.
Right.
And
Right.
it's like, yeah, when you just bring it all in and you make ruckus in your life, you become aware
Yes.
and then you grow because you become empowered to know you get to choose. You're always in the choosing. I'm choosing if I'm keeping this old, outdated identity that doesn't serve me, or I'm choosing to say, you know what? I don't need you anymore, and it's okay for you to go. It's powerful. I've not always thought of that like that. I used to think my life was blowing up and I hated it and I avoided personal development, personal growth because I didn't like the discomfort of it.
Uh-huh.
Then I started to realize the good that came from every evil has a blessing. One of my
Yes.
friends told me that, Tara, you realize every evil has a blessing. I'm like, oh, whatever. Get out of me. Get out of here with this bullshit language you're using. And then she
Uh-huh.
just She was right. She was right.
It really does. Even the things that happen to us or the people in our lives that bring some of that commotion, they bring it because you need to see something in you that you need
Yes.
to let go of, shift, change, whatever it is. But
Yes.
those folks that bring chaos into your life, there's a reason they're bringing that chaos. And for them, it's completely unconscious.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Like spirit works through
Yes,
people in our
through
life.
people, absolutely.
And so if that's ever happened to anybody listening, and it's happened to poor people in my life, they just come up and they say something, and I'm like, what did you just say to me? And they're like, I don't even know what came over me. I'm so sorry. Like, pretend I wasn't here. I'm like, oh, too late. Too late. And they're like, I have no idea. Oh, man. Yes. Yes. And I think the hardest part about that pill to swallow is I want in the old, I'm learning and I've learned and I teach that thing that triggered us about what they said or how they showed up. We want to make it about them, how
Yeah,
they're the problem. And it's
yeah.
like you said, it's awareness for us. And man, is that hard. That is really hard. I had this conversation with my youngest. He'll be 20 coming up here in 13 days. And he's getting ready to graduate college. He is full time working and busy. And somebody in his life is really triggering him. And I said, all right, dude, people trigger you for two reasons. One, something about them reminds you of your old self and you don't care for it. Something about them reminds you of you now and you don't like that part of you. It doesn't feel good and they're rubbing you the wrong way because it's swelling up in you and it doesn't taste good. You're like, oh, that's for you, reflection. Or number two, something about them makes you envious because they're confident. They know what they want. They're going after something about them is something you desire and you don't have it yet. So again, it's internal reflection for us to sit with it and ask, what is it about them that I am struggling with? And what is the lesson I need to receive from this? That was one of the first personal growth experiences that I had that opened me up to help me to go to the next level to become who I am today.
Beautiful. And that's a wonderful starting point, right? That
Yeah.
question
Yeah.
takes it
Yeah.
from blame to inner work, inner questioning, inner dialogue. The shift can start
Yes.
just right there. Just
Whew.
right there.
You just say it beautifully. You have such eloquence of how you speak it. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And so when I hear your story and the work you now do in the world, right? So
Yeah.
the work you do in the world with women, you have earned it.
Thank you. Thank
You
you.
have earned that work, right? So why do you think women so often resist stepping into their own authentic power?
Oh my gosh. Fear of
Even when they
loss.
know they want change.
Yeah. They always want change. They get to the point. Like you don't how do I say that? When you want change or when you're thinking about becoming authentic, you want the change. You do. Because up until that moment, you're just living with blindfolds on. You've got horse blinders and you're just going through life and you're not even aware that you're not happy because you're just surviving. The moment that you start to think, I would like something different, you want change. It's your awakening. Yeah.
Exactly.
Why do
And
they
it's meant for you to change, or you would not have had
Amen.
not have had
Amen. Amen. Yes. Yes, so true. So true. I love that you bring that out there because so often we think that we're ridiculous that we want it. We have been told, right, you shouldn't be so selfish to want more. Can't you be happy with the life that you have? So when we
Mhm.
desire something different, right away we resort back to that shaming ourselves because we want something different. But if you don't have that desire, it's you're not, how do I say it? If the desire comes on your heart, it's because it's meant for you. Otherwise, it can't land on you. Like Steve Jobs. He brought the phone into existence. He wouldn't have done it had it not been put into his mind to know this is something the world needs.
Yeah.
And so
And
he was
that
the
you
one that
can
was
bring it forth.
Yes, yes. Somebody said that there was a number of people that had that thought and tried and failed, and it wasn't until it landed into the hands of Steve Jobs that it became an actual reality. So, yeah.
Absolutely. My partner and I
Yeah.
actually were recently talking about the Wright brothers who took flight first. There were other people around the country who were also working on it at the same time. There was this
Yeah.
guy who was a scientist, well known at the time, and people were funding his efforts, and he failed.
Yes, because he wasn't meant to. Like everything will be blocked if it's not yours to have.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's why you'll watch somebody struggle and try to do something and be working at it for years. And all of a sudden, this little pipsqueak comes in and boom, 2 weeks done. It's not because he's better than anybody, she's better than anybody, or they had somebody special helping, or that they're lucky. None of that. They're meant to do it. They are
Yeah.
meant to be the one to bring it into the world. Yes.
And what's the energy within them? Because I truly believe everybody gets these hits, but what's the energy, just like you shared in your transformation story, once you loved yourself, right? Everything started to change. I truly believe it's like once people get that hit, and there's either a shift in their mindset or how they see themselves or how they see the world. For you have to believe, you have to move towards believing, knowing, assuming that you can
Yeah.
do it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Shifting how you think, how you feel, what you believe, like those actions that you're taking have to start changing. Nothing changes if nothing changes. So if you keep doing the same thing over and over, you get the same results, which people have heard it before. That's insanity, right? So as soon as you start doing something different, even if it's a minuscule little itty bitty thing, but it's different, it starts to shift and change. And you become more confident because you realize, oh my gosh, I can actually fill a teaspoonful of water and I can hold it for 3 seconds. I'm good at this. And then you get a little bit more confident. So you go for a tablespoon and then the next, right? Like you build that confidence and then you start shifting and changing and your reality shifts and changes. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
So why do they not go after the change even though they want it? Because they're so scared. They have this conditioned belief that if they do, something is going to come in that's painful, something that they don't want. Abandonment, hate. And it's really honestly, I personally, in my experience of women that I work with, has always been about loss. If then I lose. Something of loss, whether it's somebody that they love, whether it's a job, whether it's their own identity of what they
Mhm.
know.
Yes.
That's a big one. One woman said to me, she goes,
Mm.
Coach, you're telling me I can lose 50 pounds. I said, yes, I know you can. Okay, who am I going to be then? Like, that was her biggest. She's like, I'm like,
Right.
who are you going to be?
Because we
Right?
weave our stories around our identity.
Yeah.
And at that weight, she has an identity.
She knows who she is. Yes.
Yes.
She knows how to show up. She knows how to get out of bed. She knows how to do what she needs to do to get out of bed, how to walk into a room, how to hide, how to get people to laugh at her so that she doesn't feel ridiculed, how to people please. She knows all that. She doesn't know how to do the other stuff. So then how? How do I do that? That's fear. The other part too that happens why we don't are limiting beliefs. These beliefs that we believe to be true for us. These are lies that are and we talked about this, but they're stored within our subconscious mind, within our body, and they run on autopilot. And they feel so true for us. And so we want it, but this limiting belief tells us why it's not possible. why we can't want it, what the outcome's going to be if we don't listen and we do it. So it'll recycle us into things. So this is a beautiful way to put it. I had a woman came to me. She said, I would just like to be more confident when I am giving my talks at work, when I'm in a meeting. I said, okay. So we uncovered the limiting belief is I'll never be worthy of confidence. That was the limiting belief that she had. And she believed that to be true. And so when we went up above her timeline to discover when this became true for her, that exact moment, it was in the womb. She was in the womb at 4 months of gestation that she believed this to be true. And it was connected to her mom. Her mom did not have confidence. So when we dialed into it, she's like, oh, my mom struggled with confidence all the time. And while she was pregnant with my client, she was struggling with what to do for career wise. And she didn't feel confident enough to go after this career she wanted. So this belief became true for my client. That was when it started. She wasn't even born yet. And what happens is we create what is called a file folder. I always love explaining it. So here's your file folder, and it's labeled with this limiting belief. And that was in gestation. She's in the womb. Now, at 1 year old, something happens that is proof you're not worthy of confidence. At 5 years old, you're not worthy of confidence. And it keeps going and going and going. And before long, what was just this little thing now is full of all this proof that you're not worthy of confidence. So you think about wanting to talk in a meeting and you stand up and all of a sudden this file folder opens and says, excuse me, what are you doing? You're not worthy of being confident. Nope. So then you try to speak and nothing comes out and you just sit down. Or you speak and you wish you wouldn't have spoken because now you feel less confident than you did 2 seconds ago. So these limiting beliefs continue to run the show. We are Pinocchio and they're dictating our life. That is most often what I find is the reason. And of course, conditioning, which again brings me right back to the limiting beliefs. The thing that I want to make very, very clear that's really important is if I were to ask your unconscious mind when that happened and you said, I was 26 years old, I can't accept that.
Right. Yes.
Because it could never have been when you're 26. It had to either be from a past life, passed down generationally, in the womb, during your birth, or 0 to 7 years old. So when you're experiencing things now, you have a whole booklet full of experiences that happened. You've written trillions of books in life experiences, and they all have the title of a limiting belief. So if I went in at 25, I would only release this part.
Right.
Right? So from 25 to birth or whatever, it's gone, but it still exists. It still exists 25 or 26 to now. Therefore, that belief is still there. So it's going to only begin to create more again. It's not been released fully. So that's so important to know because women will ask, why can I work on the belief, but it still keeps coming back? It's because it's not been released at the root. We have to get to the root cause, that very first moment.
That's right. And that's the key. That's why doing just affirmations doesn't work. That's
Yeah,
why taking in more and more information doesn't work, right? The insight, the understanding, we have it up here, but
right.
if you don't do the work here to integrate, to dig down to the root cause, to then embody what you know, it's just going to keep coming back. It's onion layers.
Yes, it is. And affirmations are a layer, right?
Yeah,
Like
it's
it's a
great.
layer.
But it's
And
like what you were talking about earlier, the 4 levels, right? Of the body, the
yeah,
mind, the spirit, like going in yoga, we talk about the 5 koshas, the body,
right.
the energetic body, you know, you go inward. You have to do healing the same way.
Yes. And I think the affirmations, I don't, do you agree? Like they would almost be the outer layer. It's like you have the onion that is really like tight. Nothing's coming in. And then you start the affirmations and the onion starts to blossom a bit. And then we can start getting in because those affirmations are opening us up. It's bringing us into an awakening and sprouting. Essentially, we're sprouting. So the affirmations are, I think, are such a great place to start, but it's also why they get stale.
Yes.
And if we only stick with affirmations, nothing else happens. So then
Right.
this is why people believe affirmations don't work. It's
Mhm.
not true that they don't work, but they're not the cure all and they're not meant to be. They're meant to be the opening. They're the start. It's like planting the seed. You can plant the seed, but if you don't water it and you don't give it sunshine, in my personal opinion, you don't talk to it and sing to it, you're not getting anything. So we have to do additional layers to get more layers to open.
Exactly. Exactly right. That's a wonderful way to put it. And so in the work that you do, and so much of it is somatic, right? I'm
Yeah.
hearing the somatic work that's in there. Um, what does it look like for the women you work with to truly embody her authentic self, right? Like, what is that moment that you see the spark turn into that full blossoming?
Gosh, when they're in the experience and how they typically respond to something and they don't respond in that way and they pause and they are in that moment of awareness, realizing, oh my gosh, I just made this gigantic shift. What I've been working for just happened. For
Yes.
instance, I had a woman, her biggest, she's still my client, but what we were working on then was fear of being judged by others. Like that was her biggest fear because judgment to her meant that one person judged her, everybody would judge her, then she would be kicked out of the tribe type thing. And
Yeah.
so she played piano in church. And any time she made a mistake, she would spin out. She would go home crying. She would, because she knew in her heart of hearts somebody's going to judge her. They would kick her out of the church. She would no longer get to be able to be the pianist at the church, and then nobody's going to like her and nobody's going to love her and God's going to get rid of her too. Like that's what she'd spiral to. We worked through this. We released limiting beliefs. We released negative emotions. We went in and energetically pulled and found where this was tied to her in past lives, passed down generationally. She's playing in church and she makes a mistake. And at the end of it, her husband comes up and says, oh my gosh, okay, okay. I'll help you get your stuff and we'll go. And it's okay. It wasn't really big and people didn't hear. She said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, you made a mistake. Like, and she said, yeah, that's okay. It's okay. It's not a big deal. Nobody cares. And she said, my husband stood there and he turned away and he turned back and he turned away and he turned back. And he said, are you sure? And she said, I'm so sure. It's not the first mistake I've made and I'm still playing piano, aren't I? And she said, when I was so calm about it. And she said, on the way home, she said, I started crying. And my husband said, I knew it. I knew it. And she said, no, I'm not crying about that. I'm crying because I just realized that it happened. I made it. Like, I don't care if people judge me. I'm okay with it. And that was the moment of like, she embodied, absolutely embodied. And you know what? What gets me extremely emotional is that we had no idea that moment of judgment that she had to go through and disconnect and be okay with and heal through was preparing her for a life experience that was going to rattle her cage deeper than anything you could imagine. And I'm not talking death, like legit death of somebody, but death in a way. And that's how this works. This is why these little things that seem so minuscule and ridiculous. I'm worried about people judging me. What the hell? I should just get over it. Babe, there's big coming in there that you have to get past that because there's something you're preparing for in your future. And I don't say that to scare you. I say that to excite you to go through what seems to be small potatoes because you will be strengthened to prepare and work through what's coming and you will rise above it, just like my client did. Every day I tell her, I'm so proud of you. You blow my mind. How absolutely incredible you are and how empowered you are and what you're choosing. She said, and she says to me, she's like, Tara, I couldn't have done it without you. I couldn't have done it without your help. You helped me. And we did it together. We did it together. I couldn't have done it without her willingness to allow.
That is true.
It's, so that moment is when they find themselves in it and they experience that they've done it. That's when they fully embody it. That's when they're wide open and they're like, okay, what's next?
What else you got?
Yeah, right? Like, give me another moment so I can show you I'm good, right? Yeah, yes. Oh,
Name of your program, Be the Change You Need, is so apropos.
thank you.
And I like that the initials come out to be bitchin', but that's the
Yes, we be bitching. Yes, yes, yes. I love it. I do
I
too. I
love
do
it.
too.
I
Yes.
love it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Beautiful. And the transformational program She Rise is so appropriate for where we are in, in our we've talked about the whole fire horse year starting. And so the title of She Rises is perfect. And I think too, the shift energetically on this planet for women is so
It is. It
your
is.
work is so needed.
Thank you. Thank you. Women are
So
being squeezed to rise up. We are being pushed out of our comfort zone. It's like when I say that I see this nest of these little birds and they're all females and they're being plucked one by one and told, fly, fly, fly. We need you. We need you. And so if you are a woman and listening, and if you're a man listening, please know that I love and appreciate men. I'm a mom of 3 boys. I was a single mom of 3 boys, and my boys are my life. And so I never say this because I discredit men. I'm just speaking from my understanding working with women. We women are being asked to no longer sit on the sidelines waiting to be given permission to take action. We are being pulled off the sidelines, thrown into the middle of the field, and told, put your gear on and get in action because you're needed. And
Yep.
you're slipping and sliding, right? You're slipping and sliding and you're trying to get traction and you're fumbling and you're making all these mistakes, but you're doing and you're doing and you're doing. And that's what we women are being put through right now. And it feels uncomfortable and scary because we're so used to making mistakes and being shunned and being cut out. That's not happening. We are not being shunned. We are not being cut out. We're being kept in the middle of the field and we're being supported and we're being risen. And before long, if you stay in the middle, because you can choose to go back to the sidelines, you can choose that. But if you stay in the middle, before long, what you're going to find is a whole group of women right there with you, fumbling the ball and learning and learning and growing and rising. That is what's happening.
Fantastic.
And 2027 is even huger. 2026 is the moment of awakening for us women, which is why we need to take this seriously, because 2027 is a whole new story that is amazing. This is why we're being pushed for what we're doing in 2026.
All right. I'm ready for it. It's
Same.
when women release the stories that were never truly theirs to begin with, something powerful really, really happens. And
Yeah.
that's what women are really being called to do right now, is to let go of those old stories. They're weighing them down, weighing us down, right? And it allows them to step into their power. They stop shrinking, they stop performing, they stop asking for permission, right? All of that. And they begin to rise into the life that is more authentic, embodied, and alive.
Beautiful. Absolutely.
That's where they need to be.
Oh, it's happening.
Love it. This was the conversation I was waiting for.
Yes, I know. Thank you. I've been so excited for this, like just waiting and waiting. What do you mean it's only 1 o'clock? Like,
And it's perfect to, March is Women's History Month. So this is a perfect conversation to have at the beginning
yes.
of March.
Yes, I couldn't agree more. Thank
Can
you.
you tell the audience how they can reach out or how they can find you?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I'm all over the place. I'm loud and proud, so you'll find me easy, I promise. So, the best place to start would be my website. Like, that's where I feel like is go there and then you can get to me everywhere else. So, www dot Tara dash, like the telephone number, Wiskow.com. And I'll make sure that you have all the links. That's my website. You'll see it's linked to Instagram. Instagram, important to know, Tara.Wiskow. That is my profile there. And I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok. I have my own podcast, Be the Change You Need. So you can find me there as well. Yes.
I'll make sure your website then is linked in the show notes so that people can reach you there.
Thank you.
And I love being on your Instagram page, so hopefully people can find you there.
Oh, thank you. I'm getting comfortable of letting myself show up and be seen
That's
and
right.
speaking. And I'm doing it imperfectly, and that is the best way to
It's
do it. So,
okay, exactly. You
yes.
and I
Yes.
both. This past year, I've gotten more and more comfortable showing up, and
Yeah.
that's what we're being called to do. So,
And it shows because when you're speaking, you're speaking from the heart. Like, and it you pull people in, and I love that. Like, there are days that I have come like, oh, in the morning and felt like, okay, what am I going to say, and feeling just so caught up in that spiral of the right thing, and saying it and showing up the right way. And I've tapped into reels and just your calm presence of how you speak and what you share. And it just allows me to know it's safe for me to relax and just calm that central nervous system and claim that for myself as well. You've been such a huge support without even knowing it to just calm the fray that I have at times within me. So thank you.
thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank
Yeah,
you.
you are
I
welcome.
appreciate it. And to our audience today, if this conversation resonated with you, I
Yeah.
invite you, number one, to either reach out to Tara or reach out to myself and start to step into the work that is calling you. I also will invite you to take a moment to turn inward and ask yourself, based on this conversation today, what story are you still carrying that no longer serves you, that no longer belongs to the woman that you're becoming? And until next time, here on the Expansion Room, I hope that there continues to be this unfolding for you in your life.